Okay, we're going to be painting the Huntington Lighthouse. I took that photo while on my kayak. Okay, I am working on a student painting because I forgot to turn on the recorder. I'm using cerulean blue, and I'm going to be adding a bit of alizarin crimson between the blue and the orange yellow. Uh, we need to do this because we have to bridge the yellow with a crimson color. So if you didn't have alizarin crimson, let's say you have magenta, you could use magenta, you can use like a rose color, anything that's more of a cool red or magenta color. All right, so that's going to bridge the yellow with the blue. And so here I'm putting some striations in the sky. The student got a little too light, which is, she's new, so I'm going over this. I would be going over this the exact same way. I'm adding a little bit of the alizarin crimson and some of the orange in the water so it picks up in the light sides. So what I'm doing here is I'm letting the water drip down, okay, so that it actually has a horizontal sweep. So I just put it vertical. I'm lifting off some of the color around the lighthouse so that when she goes over that with her paints, she won't have too many streaks. So now this is my painting. Now what I did was, I believe I sprayed this with a little water. I'm not 100% sure, but we're going to do that anyway. Actually, no, it's wet now. We're going to wait and we're going to go into this with some spray. Now the thing is, let's say you want to get the sky a little richer in color. This would probably be the time that you would want to do that after it's fully dry. Make sure you test it. Use the back of your hand. If it feels cool, it's not ready. If it feels clammy, it's not ready. If it feels warm to the back of your hand, then you'll know that it is ready to paint. Because you don't want it to put a second wash over a unstable primary wash. So you have to make sure that it's nice and dry, and then you can re-wet it again, and then go into it again with a little bit of little spray. You don't want to use a brush because if you use a brush, you might lift off some of the paint that you put down in the original wash. So just be wary about that. And so as we're moving along, now we're painting the striations. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the same colors that were on the palette, right? You can see that now the painting has a little sheen to it. There's a little water. I'm basically painting, I shouldn't say paint, but I'm putting fresh, clear water over areas that I want to fill in with just some detail. Now, I don't want to go too dark. We have to keep these striations very, very light. Now here, if you look at the photograph, the original reference picture, you'll see that there's some little clouds and so forth in there. But we want to try to keep things simple. And this painting is more of like an approach that if you were outside in nature and you just wanted to do a quick rendition of this scene as quickly as possible, especially in a fleeting light like this. These skies only last, if you're lucky, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then they change. It's right at that point where the sun is just over the horizon, and you get those really intense colors. And the same goes for sunsets as well. Now, notice there's a little bit more peachy color. I've always noticed that in sunrises, the atmosphere is, I don't know, I guess there's more pink in the sky. This was a early October morning, so there's a little cooler air happening, um, and the air is pretty clear, so you can see a lot of details in the clouds at this point. So now I'm going over, again, same colors that I used earlier, right? I'm just, now here I'm also using, I see that there's some brighter pieces of where the light is hitting. I'm hitting those with just my scrubber, right? I just want to lift up some of the primary wash, right? So here you can almost see that there's a little bit more of light. I'm trying to replicate what was happening in the original painting and just trying to create more interest and drama, really. to the picture. So as you can see, there's more, even I'm being careful even at this stage not to bring the orange into the blue area. You want to really keep those separate. Okay, even where I put a little bit of the pink over the cerulean blue, that was alizarin crimson. And I think I put a little bit of pro white in there just to give the clouds just a little bit. I could have done a little bit more, but I wanted to keep it still transparent. All right, as you can see, the first wash of the water has a little bit of color to it. That's basically our washed out yellow ochre. I'm sorry, cadmium yellow and cadmium orange too. All right, so I'm painting the back. I'm starting from back to front. So as you can see, there are light, very light washes. That's the purple and blue. I still have not added any other color to my palette. I'm still using the colors that you saw originally for the sky, for all the aspects of the sky. We have the alizarin crimson, we have the cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, and alizarin crimson. And the alizarin crimson mixed with a little bit of the blue kind of created that purple. So basically, that's uh, the cerulean blue. Let's say it's a little bit of everything. I think I did add a tiny bit of the just burnt umber on that side, on the left side of the painting. I just wanted that to be a little richer, a little bit more. I think that since that landmass was closer, it was a little bit more detail and volume and value. Okay, things that are closest to us obviously get more full light and full light and dark. Land masses in the distance go lighter. Now I'm starting this with alizarin crimson, a little bit of burnt sienna, and burnt umber. Now the alizarin crimson in here is going to try to keep it in keeping with the rest of the sky, but it's a very small amount. You can probably barely see it, but it's going to look brown. It's going to look like a brownish color, but it's going to have a tint of what's happening in the sky. So basically, the rocks, I'm pretty much doing one flat wash across the board here, just to get that feeling of a silhouette. So as you paint this, you can get a little darker. You can see I'm adding more darks where the rocks are, and building up those rocks. And they are dark. I mean, they've been there since 1857. People, this is how old this lighthouse is. And it's interesting because the harbor, it's actually Huntington Bay, or Northport Bay, actually. And you wouldn't think they would need one, but back in the day, there was some sandbars and things out in the Sound that the ships had to watch out for. And Northport Bay has some pretty deep areas, and it is protected by the nor'easter winds. So it's kind of cool that it was done there. And thanks to the people of Huntington a few years back, they were just gonna let it just die and knock it down and just keep the landmass there. But they kept it up. They actually have tours there. All right, so now what I'm doing here is I'm just getting a little darker with my washes, burnt umber and ultramarine blue, maybe a tiny bit of sienna, but burnt sienna, but just a little bit, not a lot. I don't want to put too much emphasis on these rocks at this point because they still are in silhouette. So I have to try to keep the detail just to the light side, which is on the right side of the as you can see in the picture. You can see a little bit of the orangey color. Now, I did put a little orange on the right side where the light is hitting the side, and you'll probably see I'll probably go back over that and get it a little richer later on. So I'm trying to get some of the details in the windows. There's just some architectural embellishments there that I'm adding. Just little darks and lights, and trying to keep it so it looks like it's, well over 100 years. This thing is quite old. And you know, the surface texture is a little, rusty and weathered. So keep that in mind as you're painting it. You're not painting something that was built yesterday. So try to get some texture in there. There's some now. These are additions. They did put like a little walk around, which is kind of cool. Actually, the day I was there, I did catch some fish, and there were some guys in there checking the windows. And every year, I notice too, as the weather gets colder, they take away the stairs and the floats. The only thing that's left is the lighthouse, and they don't go out again until April. I think they start going out, and they'll put the floats back and the uh, and the stairway. There's like a little stairway that leads down. It's that shape that looks like it's on a diagonal. So now I'm just painting in some of the. There's a little balcony there, a little walkway. Just trying to get a few. I'm just alluding to the detail. Don't feel like you have to get every little line perfect. In fact, the less perfection you get, the more spontaneous the painting will look in the long run. So keep that in mind as you're painting. So now I'm wetting the water, and I'm going to start to paint in some of the detail and the waves, a little bit of the wave action happening um, as we move along. And there's always going to be um, what you do, the reason why I'm wetting it, because I want the water to at this wash, I want it to be. I'm just adding different colors because I'm trying to replicate what's happening in the reflection of the water. It's picking up cerulean blue, it's picking up the purple, it's picking up pink, it's picking up everything that you see in the sky, but it's not a mirrored surface, right? We have undulations of waves that we have to contend with. So now I'm just trying to get the subtle color shifts, which I have now, and you can kind of see them. You see a little bit of orange, you see a little bit of the muted blue. Can you get the reflection a little darker? Definitely. I had to lighten this image up quite a bit to make it look a little bit more airy and atmospheric. So now I'm going to start looking for just shapes. Now I'm going with the magenta here and a little bit of ultramarine blue. You can almost see it's almost a purple, right? I'm just making long strokes, keeping them thick and thin. That's it. This is my first pass. It's going to be quite light. You'll see how it progresses. You'll see that little by little we'll get progressively darker, but we're going to get more specific in the shapes of those little waves. Now remember, you want to start those waves very small in the back and get them larger as they come to the foreground. All right, that's visual perspective. That's what's happening in the scene. Don't use big brush strokes near the lighthouse or close to the lighthouse. Probably 1/3 in from the lighthouse down, you have to keep those strokes very small, even if you have to work with a smaller brush. Or if you control the point on a larger brush, then go for it. If you feel like you can't, just scale down to a little brush and you'll be able to make those little tiny waves. And again, they're thick, thin lines on a horizontal trajectory. Okay? So now getting a little bit more into a nice wash. We're seeing that there's some movement there, and there's going to be a darker one, obviously. We can actually see it. Now what we're going to do is you're going to paint the tops, then we're going to go back with fresh water, clear water, and just touch the bottoms. This will give it the illusion that that wave is lifting, okay? So start with a dark top and just use a little water to flush it down and soften the bottom edge. And that's how we can create a wave, okay? So really there's not a lot to it. And it's just making them look real and keeping the scale, right? Keeping those smaller ones in the back and the bigger ones in the front. Now I'm showing the class how to actually make the waves. don't make them like a cartoon, like little, I guess, W shapes in the water. But it's similar to that. It's just not you want to kind of break up those shapes as much as you can. Um, what does it say? It's said that there's never a wave that replicates itself. Every wave is different. So just like a fingerprint. So, um, so we're building up the water. It's still, we still have to go a little, slightly darker in the reflections. And I think here now I did notice I went down to, I think it was a size 4 or a 6 size brush. It's still the same watercolor brushes that I use larger. And you can see I transitioned over to, I'm thinking that's a 12. So I want to make sure that these shapes are nice and dark and rich um, as we're working our way down. Now here, I think we're almost at the end. Now the video is a little on the light side for some reason. It could be the lighting in the studio, but the actual painting is a little richer, and you'll see that at the end. Now I feel I had to go back and get some of the colors in the lighthouse just a tad bit darker. If you wanted to go over the water again, you can. You definitely can, go over it with another wash. But I wanted to keep this very simple. Now I am using a little of the Pro White to add some of the little tiny details around that railing, that gangplank or whatever that.